fairly well polished aluminum spinner there. Subtle, 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 subtle. All this is very subtle stuff. I'm just lightening a touch here because it went down into this little groove like that. It's not much lighter, but it's just light enough. Just darken this contrast area a bit. That's shadow cast by the sun over the top of the wing there. That's there. This bit here is dark. Don't want too much emphasis there, but make it just a bit darker. And yes, it'll show up better. Like this area here, it's going to be on the top of the fuselage. We're going to get darker here. More so than the other nacelle, because the other nacelle really hasn't got the fuselage shining into it, so to speak. Now, to make it as though white and green, and what do we get? A horrible colour. Okay. A bit more yellow. Very vibrant, that yellow. So I'll grey it down a bit with some bluish purple. Not too blue, that's gone too green. It's gone too green. Magenta and white. Let's try some magenta and white. Magenta and white. Okay. Sometimes you can't really work out what is really happening until you put something down. First, you want squeegee out paint. Push, get into all those little crooks and nannies. Crooks and nannies, nooks and crannies. Not quite around this line. It's quite a blunt bull nose that these things had. Let's see if we can get that blunt bull nose working. Yes, right. Bring in, but it's got no edge to it. I'm too lazy to put it down and pick up another brush. But it's doing what I'm asking it of now. Alright, that's the shadow from the cockpit. Now while you've been away, so to speak, I've been at work on the near cockpit, near nacelle. Here, finished that off, and gone back over the aluminium surface and picked out some of the panels a little bit more so as to give it a natural aluminium effect. Done the wing similar to the other side. Same old details, same copy hour on there. Finished the cockpit off there, and I'm now just going to finish this cockpit, pilot's cockpit here. I'll put the dark area in behind using my favorite black mixture of Meridian and magenta. But the pilot will be silhouetted almost against the skyline, and this area here to the rescue. So there. On there. Wet brush. At the moment I'll just use my normal. It won't be quite as black as this, probably the same black as that nacelle aperture. That's better. There. Yep. Play with a light and dark brush, just so that there's a suggestion of zoomed in on that cockpit, which I've nearly finished now. It's a tricky business, really, showing the areas where the transparent glass is really transparent, light being behind these front areas where you're looking straight through, and so where there's darks, it's really dark. So the glass here at this point is very transparent, so you can really go to town on darks and lights and almost show the pilot's face even. Although that's just a suggestion that there's a pilot there. That panel there too is very dark. Right there, looking straight into the cockpit there. Right, straight into the cockpit there. Mistake. Correct it. Correct that mistake. Right down into there. Now, because that's cockpit there. You can see the engine nacelle through this part. Now this panel is at an angle, and it isn't nearly as transparent. In fact, it's picking up more skylight, light from across there than he has, and hence this I've grayed this area down. You can just see the far post of the building here. And I think I'll just darken that down there just a touch and pick that pillow, pick it up there. right. And now, really, it's titivating time, really. Titivating time, I call it, where you can dance around the canvas, picking out areas that need strengthening, more defining. This, by the way, is where the prop hub is. Some people like making fuzzy shapes everywhere where the propeller is. I don't believe in spoiling my painting by doing that. I've tried very hard to see whether I can see those funny buzzy lines that other artists put on. I know where they get it from. They look at photographs of rotating propellers and that's what they see. Of course, what they don't realize is the cameraman has had to use a reasonably fast speed on his camera to stop the action of the aircraft. And what he's doing is stopping the action of the propellers. But the human eye can't see that. The human eye does not see what the camera sees. Those fuzzy lines. The human eye sees a disc, a graduated dark disc if it's a black propeller. And that's my story anyway. I stay quiet. I won't put that on yet, propellers, until that's a bit dry. Then I trace out on a piece of paper an ellipse and just to get it correct, because that disc has to be absolutely correct, otherwise it just doesn't work. And I'll trace it out and just suggest the propeller. I'll stop this painting, this photography now fairly soon, so that there's enough room on the tape to show the finished painting. I think that's what I'll do. I'll show the finished painting. This is a bit of the nose. I want to bring it towards the viewer a bit more, so I'll strengthen the dark areas here just a bit. Having done that, it now needs some lightening as well. Areas of light, not exactly wash what I do, is just, I don't believe in spoiling my painting by doing that. I've tried very hard to see whether I can see those funny buzzy lines that other artists put on. I know where they get it from. They look at photographs of rotating propellers and that's what they see. Of course, what they don't realize is the cameraman has had to use a reasonably fast speed on his camera to stop the action of the aircraft. And what he's doing is stopping the action of the propellers. But the human eye can't see that. The human eye does not see what the camera sees. Those fuzzy lines. The human eye sees a disc, a graduated dark disc if it's a black propeller. And that's my story anyway. I stay quiet. I won't put that on yet, propellers, until that's a bit dry. Then I trace out on a piece of paper an ellipse and just to get it correct, because that disc has to be absolutely correct, otherwise it just doesn't work. And I'll trace it out and just suggest the propeller. I'll stop this painting, this photography now fairly soon, so that there's enough room on the tape to show the finished painting. I think that's what I'll do. I'll show the finished painting. This is a bit of the nose. I want to bring it towards the viewer a bit more, so I'll strengthen the dark areas here just a bit. having done that, it now needs some lightening as well. Areas of light, not exactly wash, what I do is just rub it up and down on the palette to get rid of. That lightning is helping to make it look silvery, agreed. That there is the wing coming through. What else can we see?
Walker, this is how I like to portray them. Just a suggestion of them rotating. None of those fuzzy marks that the camera captures and that the human eye cannot see. And I'll repeat that, the human eye cannot and does not see. To me, that depicts the rotating propeller far more effectively than to imitate a camera.
I'll just recap on the important features we went through earlier. My light source is up here, and I've used the light area behind the white colored Valiant to show up the dark areas here on the tailplane and the body, but the light coming over the top of the wings, etc., contrasting nicely to the purposely designed in areas of dark. I say dark, I'm not worried about colour here. Dark here to set this wing off. As opposed to the silver natural aluminium aircraft, I've used the darker clouds here. Do you see the progression to show off the light reflecting back onto the silver aircraft here. Light on the top here, dark area. Unfortunately this is a yellow aircraft, but nevertheless I've used the yellow to make it stand out. Yellow underneath here, I mean, and so forth. The darker aircraft, i.e. the Tornado, comes up nicely, the tail here against the background. Now here was a struggle. The tone is very close, but being a green-grey, I think it sets off reasonably well, and it's receded into the background so it doesn't spring forward towards you. The darks here work nicely against. You notice I let some of this light area creep in underneath here to set that aircraft off a bit. The Hunter, again with the wing contrasting just enough with the background because it's going away from you. The darker tailplane here against the background, dark lights. The light falling on this wing because the surface of the wing is in that direction. The light would catch the colours, the lights on here against the background. The darker this leading edge against the light creeping again underneath here. See how all that's planned here? That's very intentional. It was an accident. It was added in to create that impression. And lastly, the nearest aircraft to you, the Harrier, very dark, the darkest of all, albeit you can still determine some of the grey and green areas. Here we go right through here, standing well clear. Again, see the light coming through underneath here, just to give it a little bit of lift with it. There's a lightish air underneath there. You can go all the way around the painting looking for these features. At the end of the day, though, it mustn't look forced or artificial. If the impression that it just happened just like that should come through. And yet, it has all been planned. Now, a cameraman flying in another aircraft would spend years, I think, just trying to create a composition like that and hoping it all works out correctly. One aircraft is bad enough, but 5 together